Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the CannaQueen podcast. We have an amazing episode for you today. We've got CannaQueen Genetics on the line, all the way over from the East Coast, a female breeder that's here to promote herself, to talk about some of her genetics, her history with the plant, and her history with breeding cannabis. Before we get into the episode, I want to give a quick shout out to Stonerdays Apparel. You guys can go over to shop.stonerdays.com and use code CALYX, that's all caps, CALYX, at checkout for a whopping 20% off your order. Shout out to Stonerdays Apparel. Now, let's just jump right into it. We've got CannaQueen on the line. How you doing, CannaQueen?
Hey, Doc. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Very good. We got a beautiful fucking day over here. The weather is starting to heat up. It's amazing outside. Got some Chernobyl in me this morning. Did you get an opportunity to smoke?
Yes, absolutely. I always make time for that.
Nice. And what were you smoking on this morning?
Oh, I'm smoking on none other than the Queen White Haze.
The Queen White Haze. I've heard a lot about the Queen White Haze. I know what Wisco Tree Fire was telling me about it. You sent us over a pack of it. I'm stoked to pop those. But Miss C got in on those zombie unicorn right off the bat.
Hell yeah, that zombie unicorns. There's one other garden's been growing. It is definitely more in the testing phases, but it's a fun strain. So.
Nice. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your history with this plant. When did all this come about? When did you first start smoking?
I think I first started, I actually remember the very first time I smoked. We were smoking on like an abandoned school bus in like this fishing town. And yeah, everybody was like all like, you know, their eyes were chink and like they were giggling. And I was just like, what is wrong with these people? So I realized that, I guess maybe, that first time you don't get high. I don't know, maybe I just didn't realize that I was high. I don't know. But
I didn't get high my first time either.
Yeah, like it's a common thing, I think. But then it's like, how can you not? Like, it's like maybe
what is wrong with me?
Maybe your endocannabinoid system is like so empty because you've never, fulfilled it that first high goes straight into your receptors. I don't know. It's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, or those receptors don't know how to react to what's going on for the first time,
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah, so my first time, nope, didn't get high. Second time, I slept for like 18 hours.
Nice. Do you remember what you were smoking on?
Actually, back then, it was just like, the Crip or, BC Bud or, you know what I mean? So we never really knew what we were smoking, but it was like right in the era where the cannabis started changing from like the Mexican brickweed all the time to like actual like Christmas tree buds and the mango stuff. And, that's when it started like really blooming. That's
about the time that I started as well. Like when you start going from green bud to actually having some names like White Rhino and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when we actually started calling it names other than, this is Chronic, this is Mersh, And I think the West Coast Mersh is the equivalent of the East Coast, what'd you say, Crip?
Yeah, like the Crippy,
was that
what did
shitty
they call it, like
stuff?
Hydro or Conic, you know what I mean? There was just like a blanket name for them.
Yeah, we called it either Hydro or Chronic. That whole Crip thing, the Crippy, that seems to be an East Coast term. I'm just not familiar with it, but I'm hearing more and more.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Florida, so it was definitely more of an East Coaster thing. But a lot of people, it started moving, it started moving everywhere to New York and California and stuff like that, so.
Nice. So how old were you at this point?
I think I was probably about 15, turning 16, something like that.
Okay. So at what point did you go from smoking cannabis to saying, I want to grow this for myself?
So I do have to rewind a little bit. A little bit after I started smoking cannabis, I started realizing that some things were changing as far as like my brain chemicals. I wasn't as, I don't want to say sad, but like I had a pretty tough childhood and I went through a lot and it wasn't the best home life. And so every time I smoked, it really felt like it was doing something different. Like it was touching my soul, and like I didn't smoke for the same reasons everybody else did. Yeah, like I was gonna like be around my friends and be like, yeah, we're getting high, like let's get high, but like really I knew it was doing something different for me. So the minute I had the chance to pop a seed, I did. I think it was like 14 when I popped my first seed and tried to grow it outside in Florida. I don't know if you know about Florida, but it's humid, it's hot, it's hurricanes, and So, the winds blew really hard and blew my little tree over, and I was so depressed and sad about it. But that was my little first experience. And then I married when I was about 18, and we moved away from Florida, and we traveled the entire country. So,
Wow.
so I kind of like put that on the back burner. But we ended up landing in Colorado at Fort Carson, and he actually got kicked out of the Army for testing positive for cannabis. So
That's
he
so
got
sad.
a general, yeah, it really sucked because it was our livelihood. We lived on post. Anyway, long story short, he got kicked out. We ended up staying in Colorado, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna start growing. So my friend's husband, he was a military veteran, and he was already growing. So every time I go to her house, I'm like, can I see it? Can I like just see it? I just want to look at it.
Right.
And finally, she was like, I don't know, he's not here. He's really protective, blah blah blah. So finally, one day he was there, and he was like, hell yeah, come on. So he took me in there, and I've never felt such joy in my entire life seeing what I saw in that garage that day. So
Nice.
yeah,
What were some of those first ones that you grew?
So I ended up seeing his grow room, and I was like, yep, that's it, I'm growing. So I linked up with a local guy there, and he had a bunch of seeds reserved, saved up from his dad from like the 80s to the 90s. So we had like elephant stomper and strawberry cough and Wi-Fi, OG, AK-47 destroyer. There were some really good classic ones in there. And so yeah, that's what Blue Dream. So yeah, that's like the strains that I started up with my first
Very
grow.
cool. Very cool. So you were growing at a young age. You started smoking at a young age. How long did it take you while you were growing until you decided, I want to make the step in making some types of cannabis that work for me that I can produce for myself under the name CannaQueen?
So this isn't a story that I get to share very often. This is a story that it's actually literally what sparked my joy to do more than just grow. And I'll try to like make it short. It's kind of a long story, but my neighbor, he was not retired, but he was medically discharged from the Army. He had PTSD and he had a lot of pain, and he had epilepsy. And so he was having probably about 7 seizures a day on a good day. And they were 25 years old, and I just watched this, and him and his wife, and like they were trying to start their life out, and they were just stumbling and falling, and they were smoking spice at the time, which at the time it had been killing people. And so I'm like, he can't be smoking that. He has epilepsy. What is wrong with you? Like, that's probably why he's having 7 seizures a day, So I grew a clone from that said military veteran. That was my friend's husband. It was Ace of Spades, and I realized that it didn't get me that high, but like I knew what that meant, like that it had some CBD factors to it. So I offered him an ounce from like one of my very first harvests, like real good harvest. Like I had a 1,000-watt Raptor 8-inch, like inline fan. Like I had the whole shebang.
Name drop. I remember
Yeah.
Raptor
Well,
hits.
that was at the time. Like
Those were the shit.
thing.
Yeah.
So I handed his wife an ounce of the Ace of Spades, and I said, tell him just to smoke this. Like, put the spice down. Just give this a chance, And it probably took about a whole month for her to come to me and be like, dude, he quit smoking the spice. He started smoking the Ace of, the weed. She's like, he's been 43 days without a seizure. I'm like, no way. Like, literally that. I knew that wasn't my strain, but I knew I wanted to have that pride from something I created.
It was medicine that you created for a patient, so it doesn't matter if it was your type or not. It was medicine that you produced, that you made, and you helped somebody with it. There's nothing better.
Yeah, it was the most amazing feeling that I had ever had. So yeah, he ended up, getting a quality of life back. Unfortunately, they divorced and she went on her way, but there was a lot of damage done between, before he healed himself, which you change, and things change. But I see him today, and he's healthy and happy, and it's just crazy. So yeah, awesome. that was the fire that got started in CannaQueen's soul. And
so was that one of the first plants that you bred with?
Actually, no, I didn't breed with that. I got picked up by a breeder in Spain. I'm not gonna name drop, but like he saw my pictures on Instagram, and he wrote me, and he was like, dude, he's like, that's awesome. And I'm like, no, it's not a dude, it's a she. And he was like, what? He was like, I want you on my team. He's like, I ain't never seen a girl grow like this before. Like, what? So he was like, I want to teach you how to breed. And I was like, dude, I just got this, good at this growing thing. And, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And he was like, I'm backed up and I just need you to F2. He's like, I'll help you make the selections. But he's like, I need you to F2 this CBD strain. And I was like, oh, here's my chance. It was like destined, like that is a CBD strain.
A foot in the door for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Long story short, I did the breeding project. I made 3 little nightingales. That was my very first strain. It's a 3-to-1 CBD. It has 11 to 18%. It is Harlequin times tsunami or sour tsunami times an unknown West Coast strain. He had it listed as unknown West Coast strain, and I think that was his way of protecting it at the time. But he had it tested, and it tested at 3-to-1. So I was like, he got half the seed stock, and then I got half the seed stock, and he made a good chunk of money off of it, and we parted ways, and he hooked me up with another breeder. And then I realized that these guys were using me to breed behind the scenes for them with no name, and I was like, nope, this is my time. Like, I'm gonna step forward, and I ended up in a partnership with the second breeder, and then CannaQueen Genetics was born in 2018.
That's awesome. And at this time, when you were getting into it, what was some of your main intentions on breeding cannabis? Was it all CBD related?
Actually, no, that was really my only CBD project. I started going more towards a very high THC. What the hype was. I was trying to go like towards the market, where the market was going, and I had already bred under a different breeder's name a bunch of really killer strains. So ended up, when we broke up, I say broke up because it was literally like when our partnership broke up, like we had to split equipment down the middle and all kinds of stuff. It was literally like a breakup. But I got half the babies and he got half the babies, and then we went our separate ways. And so that's when Queen White Haze was born.
So that was the first staple strain that made CannaQueen a name.
Yes, that is my legacy strain for my company.
And what was the cross on that?
The cross on Queen White Haze is Oro Blanco by Bodhi, which is the white times Wookiee, times Miami Heat, which is exotics genetics, and it is triple OG times Miami Haze.
Oh, very nice.
It was true to my roots, so, I just knew that it was going to be, originally it was supposed to be like a white version of the black haze, but I really bred it more towards the OG side, so it became more an OG than a haze. But I would tell people in the beginning, the F1s and the F2s, it was an OG haze all the way. You'd find OGs, you'd find hazes. You'd find OGs with haze high, and you'd find hazes with OG high. It was kind of cool.
Right. And, when I first heard the name CannaQueen, that was the first strain or the first type of cannabis that was thrown out there to represent you. Was everybody was saying, grow the Queen White, grow the Queen White, grow the Queen White. And I'm going, okay, well, maybe I'll pay a bit more attention to this gal. She's obviously got something going on that people love. What's the flowering time like on that? You said it leaned closer to the OG, right?
Yeah, it does lean close to the OG, and the flowering times are, I've seen one harvest at 56 days, 64 days, 70 days, but mostly between 60 and 70 days is your sweet spot. I feel like cloudy, half amber, 20% amber.
Yeah, definitely leading towards that OG side. That's a beautiful flowering time.
It is, and it's so frosty. Like, she definitely lives up to her name, like everything about her except for the haze, but the high does come out in some of the phenos, the haze high. But yeah,
especially
she's definitely more of a heavier high. And then, like, icing on the cake, the trichomes is the icing on the cake, because when you press her, she'll give you a 30 or 32% return, like, every time. Nice. Every time. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And what's the terp profile like on her?
So I have F1, F2, F3, V2, and BX1. But when you get to the BX1s, I locked in that piney, lemony, like it's like almost like Murphy's oil. There's some that have like a burnt rubber tire terp to it. So yeah, it's pretty big.
Nice. One of the things that I like asking all of the people that I interview, or all the breeders, I should say, that I interview, is what top 3 to 5 strains best represent your company and what you're trying to accomplish. Obviously, that Queen White Haze, you said that is the staple of CannaQueen genetics. Is there any others that just you're really trying to promote and put out there? So
I'm just going to say, like, as far as, like, crowd favorites, the crowd favorites are definitely Queen White Haze #1, Lemon Delight #2, Blue Tree Stars probably #3, Three Little Nightingales. Oh, it's so hard.
That Nightingale was one that you made with the breeder over in Spain.
Yeah, the Three Little Nightingales. It's an F3 of his strain, the Nightingale.
So you recreated that and
I made that strain out of my selection. Yeah, and I changed the name because I don't think it's right when you stomp on, and I say stomp on, but you could be making it better or making it worse. You don't know until until the progeny. But it deserves a new title. Like, I always stay true to the strain lineages. It's somewhere in the name, so.
What about that Lemon Delight? What's the lineage on that one?
Okay, so Lemon Delight is, it's a Queen's Treat, actually. That's what I named, that's what the name is about. But it's Lemon Royale by Swamp Boys, which is lemon tree times GMO TK skunk.
I actually heard that was a great one. That's nice. Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah,
I would have to say that if you like a longer flowering one, she's, for you. She's probably a 12 to 14 weeker, just depending on what female.
We're all about the long flowerings over here.
Yeah, but I'm talking like lemon tree all day long, like fresh lemonade stand grind. Like, I don't know, she's just phenomenal. But there's also like a GMO pheno that they love. Lefty's Farm did a collab with me on Operations Grow Season 2. They did a blind grow, and they found out what strain they were growing halfway through. So it ended up being the Lemon Delight F2. And Lefty, at the time, was doing a pheno hunt of the TK-NO5 Haze by AK Bean Brains. And he hit his best Lemon Delight with the TK-NO5 Haze male.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, so he sent me almost all the seeds that he had made, which was a bunch. And something kept telling me to pop them, so I did. And I guess I guess you don't think about this when you're trying new strains that you've made. You're just like, hell yeah, I'm about to, smoke it and taste it and da-da-da. But I actually did it live on Instagram. I smoked the mess up, and it was phenomenal. It was amazing. The smoke was great. I was sitting there. I'm like, yeah, I feel great.
Is that what it ended up being called?
Oh, sorry. So Menage Delight is the name of the strain, and then we had to nickname it Mess Up, like mess up. Yeah, it's really bad. So I get off the live. I'm like, I feel really energetic. I'm gonna go get some stuff done, and I'll see you guys later. See you next time, whatever. So I get off the phone, and like 10 minutes later, I kid you not, my heart was beating out of my chest. I was like, did you hear that? Like, did you hear that? Like, something's outside. It's like broad daylight. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I have never in my life had to smoke CBD to come down from flower. Ever in my entire life. So I knew something was up with this strain. I didn't touch it for a whole month after that. So it was curing, and I was telling all my people, I'm like, nope, stay away from that. That's messed up. That strain is messed up, And so it kind of stuck, and then they all wanted it. They're like, we want to grow. I'm like, no, I just need to come with a disclaimer. Like, if you have heart problems, this strain is not okay for you.
I feel like it sounds like Tyson trying to say messed up.
Yeah, definitely with the list. Yep, for sure. It's seriously messed up.
It's funny that you brought that up about taking CBD to bring you down from a strain. A lot of people have their, withholdings about CBD and its efficacy. But one of the things about CBD is it needs that THC with it in order to activate and in order to touch those receptors and be effective, right?
So yeah, the entourage effect, the CBD piggybacks on the THC and vice versa. So they don't really work as well without the other. But there's a few things you can do if you get too high. You can chug a beer because like alcohol is a depressant. So if you're like really, really high and you're freaking out, because a lot of people aren't used to this medical grade stuff. You know what I mean? Like they're like, what'd you do to it? It was fine before. Like it's too strong. That stuff hits different now.
Mm-hmm.
So you can chug a beer, or you can smell pepper. Pepper does something to your brain where I can't really understand. I'm like not a scientist.
Must be that karyophyllene.
Yep, it has to
That's
be.
Interesting.
So, yep, pepper, and then CBD. And people just shun CBD. Like,
I've never heard
nothing,
that with the pepper.
Yeah, definitely.
That's crazy. You know what's funny about that? We were doing an event in Seattle at HempFest, and there was a booth there that sold CBD, like, I don't know if it was isolate or it said full spectrum, but HempFest doesn't allow, any THC over there. But he had these CBD dabs, and then he had extract terpenes, so you could add whatever flavor profile you wanted to the CBD dab. And right before that, Miss C and we were passing around this big old 1 ounce joint that I had rolled, and we were sharing it pre-COVID days, and we were just high as shit. It was amazing, and I was with my brother that doesn't smoke cannabis at all. Like, he's never done a drug in his life. So we're just ripped on this 1 ounce joint, and then we go to this booth, and I said, well, I'll try the CBD dab. We sat down, he had a little e-nail on it, we put the isolate in there, we picked my terpenes, and I think it was peach or something like that. But I took just an enormous rip, and it was so smooth that I just kept puffing on it. I was fine. And then I stood up, and he's like, well, what do you think? And I said, it sucks. And he goes, what do you mean it sucks? It looks like you enjoyed it. And I said, I'm not high at all. I smoked a 1 ounce fucking joint, and you just made me waste it. So that's my testimony to how well CBD can work. It's just how you use it.
Yeah, so I just looked it up real quick about the pepper, and it says it's not an old wives' tale. If you're battling a bit of THC-induced anxiety paranoia, your body suggests sniffing or chewing on black peppercorns. A few sniffs, immediate effect, while chewing peppercorns could provide a relief for about an hour. So that's really cool to know.
Oh, wow. Up to an hour. That's actually quite a bit of time for just
sniffing
some pepper. Very nice. All right, we're going to take a short break. We're on a short break. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Diamond Cut Company. You guys can go over to Diamond Cut Company and use DOC minus 10% for 10% off your order. Since making the switch over to Diamond Cut Company, I have not wanted to use anything else. They meet and exceed every expectation that I have in a trimming scissor. Some of the most beautiful trimming scissors ever. They're like a piece of jewelry, and they keep their edge forever as long as you keep them clean. They have tons of different models. The classics, which I use to chop up my buds. I prefer not to use a grinder when I'm rolling a blunt. I prefer a coarser grind, so I use the classics to chop up my buds. They also have the 6.5, which incorporates the finger loop, and it is spring as well. I use those as my general handyman scissors. They also have the Pros, which have a rounded hand grip and a heavier spring, and I can actually use those for physically taking down smaller plants. Anything from like a 1 to 3 gallon, they usually seem to be pretty well with, as well as de-stemming before the trimming process. My favorite model though is the Harvester. They come in both gold and silver. They're springless, so you can trim as fast as your hand will fly, and since there's no resistance against your hand, it also means less fatigue and longer trimming time. Miss C's favorite model is the Artisan. The Artisan does have a spring, and it's very comparable to a lot of the top-of-the-line models that most companies use, but I find that the Artisans have a lighter spring, which again leads to less hand fatigue and longer trimming time, as well as a more comfortable grip and a sharper edge. So one last time, shout out to Diamond Cut Company. You guys can go over there. Use DOC minus 10%. That's DOC minus 10% for 10% off your order. All right, let's get back with CannaQueen Genetics. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Calix and Crew podcast. Before the break, we were talking to CannaQueen Genetics about her experiences with this plant at a young age, her experiences getting into growing, and how she got introduced to breeding. We also talked about some strains that best represent her company, and she was shouting out that Lemon Delight sounds delicious. The Queen White Haze, everybody has recommended that to me. So I'm stoked to pop back in here with CannaQueen and talk more about what she's got coming up in the future. What is going to happen with CannaQueen Genetics?
I can't say what's going to happen with CannaQueen Genetics, but I would like to think that we will be operating somewhere in a huge field of dreams with warehouses full of my genetics.
Everybody wants that.
Exactly. But for now, I'm just forwarding, working these lines, like really just putting in the work, and eventually, my strains will do my talking for me, and we'll see where that takes us. But I am actually F3ing the Triple X candy, and The Triple X candy was a special project. I had gotten some pollen from a friend of the Gulf Forbidden Candy is aficionado strain. It's a Skittles times Royal Kush times Highland Afghani. Super hashy, super fruity, beautiful plant. So I hit the X18 times the white by White Buffalo Seed Company with it, and I created the Triple X candy. The male was the most impressive plant I've almost ever seen. He was covered in trichomes. He was colorful. He definitely had more of a Skittles leaf trait, but I didn't really see that come through as much in the F2s because they favor the X18.
Nice. What colorations were you getting in the fade?
Oranges and burnt umbers and reds and plums. Oh, it was just phenomenal. Actually, I have it listed on my IG. On my
Very
timeline.
nice. Keratin doesn't get enough appreciation. Everybody loves the dark purple, the black fades, but I've always had like a special place in my heart for the oranges and reds.
I actually have a special place in my heart for the males. They do not get enough appreciation. They don't get enough face time. They don't get enough credit. Yes, we need females. I think they're obviously important, but I think the males.
It's funny that you say that as we're talking to a female breeder. The males do not get enough respect.
Yeah, and what's crazy is the females in this industry, it's vice versa with like physical life and this community and industry. The females just don't get the credit that they deserve. And a lot of females just don't even stand up. They don't stand for it because they're intimidated. It can be very intimidating to be in a sea full of...
It's definitely a male-dominated industry.
Yes, yes.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Most men are assholes. We can throw that out there. And it's not me sticking up for the females here. I can be an asshole.
Yeah, I think
everybody can be an asshole.
Not so much assholes, but like they're worse than females. They're worse than females. They're pettier than I was
agree.
Like, when I decided this was going to be my job, I was like, hell to the yeah. I don't have to deal with all these, petty women like hating me because, whatever. And then I get that same thing that I thought I wasn't going to get here. Yeah, it's just hard. We face a lot of adversity, and I'm not like a feminist. I'm not like power to the vagina. But if you guys would just give us half a fucking chance, and you would let us work with you, you would see that we bring something to the table that you never could. We were created
it's definitely something that shouldn't be gender related at all, especially when women naturally pay more attention to things than men do. It's those fine details, that comes with that whole nature versus nurture, where I might go into my grow room and say, oh, well, you're a little soggy, I'll give you, or you're a little droopy, I'll give you a little bit of water and I'll catch you later. Miss C will actually go through and look at him and make sure everything's good. She's kind of like my second pair of eyes, and she's a little bit more detailed than I am, and she catches things that I just don't catch.
And that, on that point, a lot of people discredit, for me, for instance, because I'm more of a intuitive, instinctive type grower and breeder. Even though I'll see two plants and I'm like, yes, seemingly you guys are perfect for each other, you have everything. But, there's things recessive things that you cannot see that you could bring out. So, even though I do pick the two best plants, in my opinion, as far as breeding, I also go with my second choice that's, in the back of my head, you should hit those two. They're not perfect, but you know what I mean? And 9 times out of 10, that second cross I make, that version 2 that I make is the one that I end up going with. So,
I definitely agree with that. I think there's plants that, when you smell that terpene profile, it hits certain receptors in your brain that when they turn you on, they make you happy and they make you feel good and you have a good feeling about that plant. That's definitely something that you should investigate further, because obviously there's something about that whole makeup of that cannabinoid profile in that particular phenotype that's just saying it's calling to you.
Yeah, I think too with a lot of breeders, they're breeding more towards their preference only, and I'm a firm believer in making 3 versions if you need to of the same cross. If you can, if you have the selections, I definitely encourage making more than one version, because one version could be for you, and one version could be for your mom, and one version could be for your sister. It's like, I just don't want to single out just what I want, and I think that a lot of breeders do that. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying maybe that makes me a more thorough breeder when I hit more than just what my selections would be.
Right, right. I feel like that is, or few and far between, but there is a couple breeders that like isolating certain
absolutely.
phenotypes.
I'm for that too. I just really love variety so much, and I have a very dependable test team, so they love it when I send different versions of the same strain.
Very nice, very nice. Who all do you have on your testing team? Would you like to give a quick shout out?
I actually have about 19 on my gardening team. I know. It's grown over the years. I've really built a little family. It's really awesome. And I'm going to forget some, so I hope they don't kill me. But Smurf and the Stone, Wawa Canna Grows, Tokas, 69, Grim Smurf Banks, Dubs. I just have so many, and they all bring a different factor. And they're all over the country, too. So I have some in Scotland. I have some in South Africa. Shout out Delta 9. And shout out Forbidden High Till I Die Farms in Scotland. So it's really cool to see the different phenotypic expressions, especially the South Africa. He grew the Lemon Delight, and black. The leaves of the Lemon Delight were completely black. It's just a stunning plant.
Cool. And what do you got that you're working on right now?
So I kind of got off base, but I'm doing the Triple X Candy F3s. I'm doing the Queen White Haze Backcross 1 with the Smurf and the Stone cut. Smurf and the Stone won the Dylan Queen's Grow Off, which was my third grow off that I had run on my own, and he won with the Queen White Haze. So I used his cut to backcross at F4. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on right now.
Very nice. And what was it about that cut that just did it for you? That you said this needs to be the backcross?
So honestly, I wasn't that sold on it just because of how she looked, but she was. Every time he grew her like different. So he grew her in a greenhouse, and she was like rainbow. Like her fade was just rainbow. Like her buds have this purple undertone. Underneath the leaves is purple. Super frosty, super dense. But every time he grew her, it was better and better. And then the last time he grew her, she had like this Merlot, like almost like a brick red color. Like, oh my gosh, she was magnificent. I said, you know what, Smurf, send her to me. She's been screaming at me for 3 years now. Just send her to me, and we'll collab on a back cross with her.
Oh wow, it took 3 years for you to agree on that one, huh?
Well, I wanted to see what else. There was a lot of people growing her, and there was a lot of different phenos. I mean, I was seeing the same ones, throughout the mix, but this was the one that was just like, maybe. Yeah.
So you keep your lines pretty open, or are you more into bottlenecking it into a certain type? It sounds like that you like your variation, so you're trying to keep your lines a little bit more open, but you're giving the people that want the option of the best phenotype, in your opinion, to be able to select for that too.
Yeah, so for a long time I only had about 14 strains released, and behind the scenes, every time I was flowering, I was breeding. So I have about 50 or 55 strains that I've actually created, and I just released 47 of them. So these are strains that some are at F2, some are at F1, some are at F4. So, you know what I mean? It just depends on what strain it is, but there's something for everybody.
Nice, very nice. What else are you working on that you're really stoked about?
I had gotten some seeds from a friend in the Emerald, I didn't want to call it Murder Mountain, the Emerald Triangle, and he sent me some double OG, and I'm literally like, I love OG. So I popped those. I found a male and I found a female of the double OG. So I did a binary cross. I did a male double OG to the female Queen White Haze, and then I did a female Queen White Haze to the vice versa, because I'm dyslexic, so my brain flip-flops it for me.
It's okay.
Anyway, I did it binary, so whichever, I flipped it with the other cross, and so I'm excited about those. Those are we just named the strain. It's called Lorena del Sur, which means Queen of the South.
Very nice. Very nice. That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I thought so too.
So, what made you decide to work with the Purple Wookie?
Oh man, I actually have to like. I just have to say this. I got to meet Bodhi. I got to tell him that my signature strain was made with his Oro Blanco. I was like, "Are you bringing some more back? Like, where are they? They just disappeared." It was, now it's like my second top strain I've ever grown and bred with. One of my strains has actually replaced it, but I got to talk to him. I got to pick his brain. I got to show him some of the phenos that I had, and so he did Purple Wookie, and I absolutely was dying to work with some kind of skunk, some kind of roadkill skunk, but not from certain people. So I saw Bodhi had the roadkill unicorn, and he crossed it to the Wookie, and I was like, oh, I like Wookie too. Like, he knows the way to my heart through his strains. Yeah. Wookie's almost in everything that I have. Like, literally, it's somehow, well, obviously, if the Queen White Have's in it, Wookie's in it, so.
I had heard about the Wookie for a while, and that name kept popping up, Wookie. And I'm going...
A lot of people think that it's the white times cookies, which it's not. It's lavender times Appalachia. And a lot of people, when they say the white times cookies, I'm like, ew, why would you do that? Why would you even think that? But I get it. Like, if you just take the W and you put cookie, you know what I mean? I get it. And maybe there is a Wookie cookie, but, not Wookie.
Right. Yeah, we got to try for the very first time, I think it was the Purple Wookie. That's what it was. And I said, okay, well, I finally have the opportunity to try some Wookie. And I didn't know what to expect out of it. I didn't know that much about it other than that name kept popping up. And after we smoked the Purple Wookie, I was like, this is something I would grow. This is beautiful.
The flavor.
Okay, so... It's all... And the high isn't scamp either. Like...
Oh, yeah.
It's a nice, even high.
So Purple Wookie is Roadkill Unicorn times Wookie. But if you break down Roadkill Unicorn, you got Roadkill Skunk, then you have Blackberry Widow. So that's where you're getting all those berries, undertones and stuff from. Mm-hmm. And you definitely get that Widow, too, like that. I call it halitosis because that's the only way I can explain it to people who can't smell it, but it's like bad breath. Like, that's what Widow smells like to me.
I always thought, to me, Widow was very, like, musky earth.
Yeah, I think, that could be, it could be chalked up to earthy, I guess. I really get like it's not really like a GMO bad breath. Different. That's true. Yeah, so true. That's what I'm saying. Like, I just explain it exactly. Like, if it smells like a porta potty cake, I'm going to tell them it smells like a porta potty cake, because how else are they going to, like...
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
so
put your perception out there no matter how bad it is, and honestly, I'm one of those people that if the worse you make it sound, the more I want it.
Yeah, or the more you can relate, I know what a burnt rubber tire smells like, and I know what lemon smells like, so if I put those two together, yes, that's something that I would like.
Yeah, for sure. I remember being a younger punk and stealing some of my mom's vodka, and we took a swig off of it, and my brother goes, well, what do you think it tastes like? And I said, well, it tastes like oil lamp oil. And he goes, how do you know what that tastes like? And I go, I don't, but that's my perception.
So then when people say that, like, how do you know what that smells like? I'm like, dude, how do you know what it tastes like? It's like, because your smell can translate to taste. That's why you're given those senses. Like,
Absolutely. Well, we love talking to you, CannaQueen. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Before we end this, is there anybody that you would like to shout out, sponsors, what have you?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate that. You're giving me a little stand for my voice, and that's super important to me, so I really appreciate that. I really had a great time. And I did shout out my guardsmen, but one more time, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for their thorough testing and growing for me, so thank you, guardsmen. And also, my friend Johnny Nugs will be vending at Anycan, Beanstalk, and BeanCon at the Fish Shit booth. So shout out Fish Shit and Johnny Nugs at Canalogic Inc. And also, my soil is so very generously sponsored by Bio365. My rep, Bio365 Tim. Amazing people, very knowledgeable, backed by science. Check them out. You won't
I've seen
regret it.
great things with that soil. Beautiful, beautiful work. Weren't you also doing a contest for people that were growing your types?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, in April, I'm having the first annual CannaQueen Cup. It's actually a private sesh for the first annual, just to, we can iron out some kinks and stuff. But we're doing a blind judging. Everybody who's coming has grown some of my gear, and we'll be blind judging that. We'll have prizes. We've had some prizes sponsored by What the Fuck Wisco Tree Fire for the slaps and some art.
I like how you
pipes.
say that too. What the fuck,
he's
Wisco
awesome.
Tree Fire?
Yeah, we have to definitely give him a little spotlight. I know I didn't mention him in my garden, but
It's not actually what the fuck though, is it? It's just WTF with the Wisco Tree Fire, right?
Yeah. So I guess that's just how I read it every time.
That's how I read it. Yeah, every time he pops into my life, I'm like, what the fuck, Wisco Tree Fire? And he added that later, and I was like, oh, it stands for Wisco Tree Fire, but I still, to this day, call him what the fuck.
Yeah, he's just a solid guy, good friend, and definitely makes some amazing slaps he prints, so definitely check him out.
So at this cup that you're doing, the first ever Cannabis Queen Cup, was that the name, right?
CannaQueen Cup, yeah.
CannaQueen Cup.
First annual.
Is there some kind of incentive? Is there prizes for somebody that wins this?
Yeah, so we're going to have all kinds of prizes. We're going to be playing all kinds of games. There's going to be like a joint rolling competition. I don't really want to give away all the details, but there's going to be prizes. We're buying, instead of like a trophy, we're buying like dab rigs and stuff for game winners and some of the competition winners and stuff, so. Yeah.
Very nice.
Bio
that sounds like a fun time.
Yeah, Bio365 was actually so generous and sent me a 10x4 banner with like their logo and my logo.
Awesome. That's very cool. So anybody that wants to get into this CannaQueen Cup over on the East Coast, what are the credentials? Like, what do you have to, is there any rules to it?
So it's going to be a traveling event. I decided that we didn't want it to be a stationary event. This year it's obviously in Michigan, and next year we're planning on it being in Oklahoma, and then possibly New England the year after. So it's going to be a traveling event. Yeah, and I mean, you definitely have to grow. We're going to do an overall best cannabis of the entire weekend, so it doesn't even have to be my gear, but we're going to do two separate, competitions. So.
Okay, one CannaQueen only genetic, and then one whatever you want.
Right, yeah. So, people who maybe didn't get to grow or didn't get to harvest in time, they still get to bring something and get to compete. And just a good time.
Very cool. Sounds like a fun time. I always love a good joint rolling competition.
Hell yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming on, CannaQueen. We appreciate you, and we appreciate what you're doing in cannabis.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you can check out my website, CannaQueenGenetics.com, and you can hit me on my email for a full menu at CannaMafia420@gmail.com.
You're also on Instagram, correct?
Instagram, yeah, Canna_Queen_Genetics_Co.
Very nice, very nice. Well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you so much. And that's the show, everybody. I want to thank CannaQueen again for coming on, for sharing her story, who she is. I urge you guys to go over to Instagram, go over to her website, check her out, pick up packed seeds, and see what she's working with. This is a female breeder that is putting in tons of work, that wants to get her name out there, and rightly so, deserving it. Some beautiful plants I've seen coming out. That Queen White Haze, absolutely beautiful. Some Lemon Delight. I've seen all kinds of pictures from tons of growers that are growing her genetics, yet her name just isn't getting out there, which I find absolutely astonishing. Shout out to CannaQueen. I hope we can get her back on the show one day, see what she's up to in the future. Before we get going, I urge you guys to share the show with a fellow grower. It is the lifeblood which is going to keep the Calyx and Crew podcast pumping. Your support means the world to me. Also, don't forget to go check us out on Patreon and Discord. Our memberships start at a mere $10 a month. With membership, you get access to our forum, our Discord, and we have 24/7 help there for you. I'm joined by my amazing team of guys. We have Grow Green Daddy over there helping us with content creation. We have Husky Genetics, who's going to be doing the ever hilarious Do or Dab with us, as well as a synthetic cultivation class called Why So Salty. We also have my good friend Farmer Fly over there doing the Wake and Bake Wednesdays with us. Very, very excited, and we hope we see you over there. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for supporting and watching and listening to the show over all these years. This is Doc Calix saying good night and grow right.